What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the Apple TV Plus original series, Murderbot. This will follow Season 1, Episode 2, which is called Eye Contact, and is directed by Chris Weitz. Okay, so for the second episode of this week, the premiere of this series, this was a really good episode, to be fairly honest, because it is starting to come into focus that there is a lot going on with corporatization of the world, of the universe, as we will come to know it in the future. And I really like this episode because, once again, it is very low-key. It is super high sci-fi, and it has great performances by Alexander Skarsgård and David Dastmalchian. And it's a really interesting episode because, you know, David Dastmalchian's Gurathin character is an individual that is very much in that data / robotic sentry type character who's half human, half augmented, human and stuff like that. And it basically is them two going back and forth and having kind of a Mexican standoff in a lot of ways. The David Dastmalchian Gurathin character is basically assuming that the Murderbot, the sec unit, there's something wrong with it. What's wrong with it? He can't tell, but he knows that the way the sec bot is acting, the way the way it won't make eye contact with him himself. It really is an interesting kind of beat between the two characters. And then you have a kind of a smaller storyline going on where there has been some places that have kind of go offline. They need to figure out what's going on. So Mensah goes out there to figure it out. She brings one of the ladies who was hurt in the kind of alien, the creature attack, like the centipede attack. And it's like interesting stuff because it is the more lingering question about what this series is going to do with the idea that these creatures are now dying off of some kind of fungal infection or some kind of issue. One of the characters is like, oh, it must be alien remnants that they're being attached to. It's like there's a lot of scientific kind of mumbo jumbo, but it's kind of cool to watch because you think that Mensah is going to be attacked by one of these creatures, and it ends up going past her, ends up dying of whatever effect is going on. And once again, I love the idea of these scientists who are trying to figure out what the problem is. They're terraformists, and they're scientists, and they're trying to study the world, and they're trying to terraform the world. And it's becoming a thing where they are getting much into their own realm of something maybe bigger than what it's seeming, because once again, these creatures are dying. But I liked it again where they try to call, I think it's Delta unit or whatever, and then we see that unit, but everybody's dead, including the sec bot that they have. And that's a really interesting, what I'm assuming is going to be part of the next episode, from the way they take the sec bot with him and stuff like that. There's just a lot of mystery there. It's not a huge part of the episode, but it is the underlying mystery of where we're headed for this season. But this episode really kind of delves into who Gurathin is with David Dastmalchian's character. It allows Murderbot, the sec unit, Alexander Skarsgård's character, to be very dry-witted, kind of make fun of the individual humans and stuff like that, call them idiots and morons. I like the fact that every time that Gurathin kind of questions him, the inner monologue for Murderbot is just something snide, and he's you're an idiot and blah blah blah. It's really funny. I think Alexander Skarsgård's drawl and kind of contempt for what he's seen in this world is really funny, to be fairly honest. It's some of the funniest stuff I've seen in quite a while. I laughed several times just how menacing Gurathin becomes or is as a thing, and Murderbot just comes up with these quips and just kind of these realizations. I like the idea that Gurathin's why are you talking to these people in the way you're talking to him? When he talks to the woman, one of the characters, when they're escaping from the creature, and he's but you're not built to do that. You're a sec unit, you're a security unit, you're supposed to protect us. He even says, this bot is supposed to kill because they want to take the bot with them. But he's well, the bot's supposed to kill and it's supposed to protect them. It's not really supposed to be your friend. And I really appreciate that stuff. But I just love the back and forth that they have with one another, because Gurathin's character is getting so much closer and closer to the realization that this Murderbot, the sec unit, is really damaged. And I like how he's it's Murderbot's I'm a refurbished unit. And he's refurbished unit. And then they go into the ideas of, like, still that seems kind of sus in a lot of respects. But the best part about this is, and some of the funniest moments, is the idea of like Murderbot and Gurathin's character dealing with the sex aspect, because there's a really funny moment in this scene where we see a top-down view of Murderbot, and he has no genitals, and it's really, really funny because you think about it. It's like, of course they wouldn't give him a penis or whatever. They would give him like a Ken doll type unit, because he's not built for that type of thing. It's similar to like AI or artificial intelligence, where, as he kind of confesses, there are sex bot units. There are bots built for sex in that realm, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of the characters on top of Murderbot is a cyborg, is an android. It'd be funny if like because we see a threesome in this, which is really funny because it's very awkward, and kind of like Sabrina Wu's characters in the back is like, okay, she's trying to get to the mix, but it's just like, it's going very weird, and it actually puts off Gurathin off this this kind of investigation that he's putting onto Murderbot himself. But it's like that stuff that you watch. It's really funny. It's really energetic. I just love the back and forth. I love how good David Dastmalchian comes off as this like really snide, really like not very kind of humorous individual. He's very kind of intellectual, and he's very kind of in your face, and he's just very prudish in a lot of respects. But you see kind of how it plays out, and how the two operate, and how the two just go back and forth with one another, and just how that's, how that character build, this once again is written by Chris and Paul Weitz. You can really get a sense that they know how to write characters into really interesting dialogue tropes and stuff like that. So watching how Murderbot just responds to the stuff that all the characters are saying, because once again, he is watching them through the security feeds, because they actually make things about how this corporation has control of everything, and that's a worrisome thing. But of course, Murderbot is like our inner conscience. He's like, yes, I have the ability to watch them, and I'm watching them, and they didn't take me with them, and that it feels like a problem. And they just, all that stuff, and you see all the, like I said, the technology, the HUDs that Murderbot is capable of seeing. And once again, I love the joke that Murderbot learned about some of the stuff through that TV show, the Century Moon or whatever it is, and I thought that was really funny. And I just think this episode is really funny, but also really dark. And each episode ends with like a cliffhanger that it seems really, really dark, but there's going to be some humoristic elements, I'm sure, in the next episode. Once again, it's just not a very long episode. It's like 26 minutes long, so I feel like there could be more added to it. I feel like the stuff with Mensah and the woman that was hurt, I feel like there's not enough there, to be fairly honest. I think she has a panic attack really quickly, and they just... It leads into like, it almost feels like they're making a 4-hour movie, and they should just made a two-part movie or whatever, and instead we're getting a 10-part episode series. And as much as I like that, I do wish there was more, to be fairly honest. I love David Dastmalchian. I think he's a fantastic actor. Is he overused? Sometimes, but he's fun as he is. But once again, the stuff between him and Murderbot is so interesting that I want more out of it. I hope more comes out of it. I hope it becomes more dimensional. Maybe they become like friends or something like that. I don't know, but I think it's a really fun episode. I think the nature of sex and how it's used, and how, the Gurathin characters, like, why you never make contact with people, which is very much the nature of us as humans, how we like don't really like to stare at each other because it feels uncomfortable. So there is a level of humanity that Murderbot is getting as a thing that is making him feel more humanistic and stuff like that. And just how he approaches the situation, and how Gurathin goes, you need to look at me, you need to make contact with me. If you don't, there are some issues here. And I just really love that back and forth. I love the idea of how they talk, and how it really feels like two odd ends of the spectrum. And once again, it's a very interesting look into how humans act, and how things of like different ilk, would say a robotic android sentry unit looks when it becomes more human. And it's a really, really fun episode. It's good for a 2-part beginning to a series, because it really kind of gives you the idea and concept of what the series is going to do. So I'm looking forward to where the series is headed. Once again, next week will be the 3rd episode, but for a 2-part introduction to this series, is pretty wonderful. So for this episode, I'm going to give it another 9 out of 10. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a really wonderful episode, and it has some great moments between characters. So anyways, with that said, that's going to be my take on the 2nd episode of season 1 of Murderbot, which is called Eye Contact. So there you go. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Comments below, what do you think of this episode? Where do you think this is heading? What do you think of the whole entire kind of concept and conceit of what the series is doing? So let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell. Top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.